Welcome to Our Business Shenanigans, where strategy meets sarcasm and entrepreneurship gets real. Hosted by Jen and Nicole, best friends and cleaning business owners turned accidental mentors. This podcast dives into the wild ride of running a business, the wins, the failures, and the moments that make you question everything. Here, we get real about leadership, growth, burnout, boundaries, and all of the behind-the-scenes stuff no one talks about, with a healthy dose of sarcasm and storytelling, of course. If you're here for raw conversations, practical insights, and a healthy dose of business mischief, then you're in the right place. No fluff, no filters, just the truth, the laughs, and the lessons. This is Our Business Shenanigans.
All right, where strategy meets sarcasm and entrepreneurship gets real. I am Jen.
And I'm Nicole, and today we're diving into one of the most frustrating, confusing, and expensive parts of running a business, marketing.
Yep, whether you've been ghosted by an ad guy, wasted money on SEO, or decided to DIY your way into leads, you're not alone. So we brought back.
And we've got a team from Digital Anchor Media joining us today. They specialize in helping service businesses like ours to stop guessing and start growing.
Yep, so we have Justin and Philip, and we're so glad that you guys are here. Can you guys kick things off for a little bit by telling our audience a little bit about yourselves, what Digital Anchor Media does, and how you ended up working with home service businesses?
Licensing reimagined.
Yes. Hi, I'm Phil. So I actually started this about 3 years ago, where I was helping a buddy who was in a service-based business. He actually had a pressure washing and paper sealing business. So we were in business sort of together. And I said, you know what? We got to figure out a way to help you get leads. So I was running ads and doing some things for him. And that ended up being pretty successful. I was like, man, this is really cool to help generate leads from people that we have no idea who they are. I thought it was really awesome. Right. So fast forward, we would get a couple more clients, and I've known Justin for a long time. We were in automotive. Right. So, Justin and I were talking, and somehow I convinced him to come into business with me, which is absolutely crazy. But so him and I are business partners now, basically growing this thing. And really our main goal is to, we want to not just provide leads or to send our clients leads. We want to help them grow in the smartest possible way. And every client could be different on how we do that.
Absolutely. And I think you touched on something that's really important that we found coming from automotive, where the advertising spend is huge, right? These guys dealerships are spending millions of dollars per month on advertising. And so they are really buttoned up with understanding attribution, things like what marketing channels are working. And when you zoom out and get into the small business vertical, you find out that a lot of that is lacking, and small business owners are frustrated. And so we're excited that we're able to sort of bring our expertise and what we've learned from working with some larger corporations and simplify it a bit, but then apply it to small businesses and help be growth partners so that they can understand their numbers and also run successful campaigns. So, that's sort of where we like to play and why we started this mission. And, we're having a lot of fun doing it.
Well, and I like that you try to make the most of your clients' marketing dollars. You're not trying to just go out and spend as much money possible for them to generate the most leads. You're trying to be smart about it. So what's one marketing myth that you would love debunking for us?
Phil, you want to take that?
There's probably quite a few. One marketing myth. I think my favorite that we've seen more recently in the last 6 to 12 months is really vanity metrics. Like, hey, I had 8,700 conversions in my ad account. Well, 8,700 people clicked your page because you can set up conversion actions really however you want. We like to use forms and calls. So that's not always the best data to rely on. Right? I think that's mine.
Yeah, click means nothing to me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't. It could be robots clicking. It could be anything clicking. I think my favorite is that marketing doesn't work, or specific channels don't work. You'll hear a lot of people say things like, well, I've tried Facebook ads and they don't work. And I've tried Google ads and they didn't do anything. And I think that for a lot of us, there's this refusal to accept the fact that we just might not be good at it. Like there's an art to the craft of running Facebook ads or running Google ads. And I'm a firm believer that any one of these advertising channels can generate a positive return on ad spend, but they take a little bit of work and a little bit of craft. And I think that's the core component that's missing. So my favorite myth, I think, is that any specific advertising channel doesn't work or is bad for business.
I'm
So
going
you
to share a
mean-
secret with you
Oh.
because Nicole is in that camp of Facebook ads don't work.
Okay.
No, I
Oh.
don't think that they don't work. I think that they are dead end leads because Facebook people are the people that tend to be very cheap. They targeting them on Facebook. I feel like they weren't looking for a cleaning company specifically in the cleaning industry. They were just scrolling on their little midnight doom scroll, and they're like, "Oh, that looks interesting," and then they call and they're like, "Well, it's over $200." Absolutely not. So it's just not.
Well, what you're talking about are I think is important, but you're really talking about the different parts of the funnel that you are targeting with these different advertising channels. And to your point, when we're advertising to somebody that's on Facebook, they're not necessarily at the bottom stage of the funnel where they're actively looking to make a purchasing decision. But Facebook, the algorithms have gotten powerful enough to be able to identify those people much better than they did a year, 2 years ago. But to that point, if I need somebody to clean my home, I'm going to go to Google and say, best home cleaning company near me. I'm ready to make a purchasing decision. I'm pretty well understanding of what the cost is going to be. So the lead quality will be higher. That said, knowing what we know about cost per click on Google and local service ads, cost per lead, those leads are going to be more expensive, right? And so I think a well-balanced machine of being able to run ads for those people that are bottom of the funnel and capture that attention, absolutely. But then also, once you've tapped out that market, then you can go up the funnel with things like Facebook ads and start to bring those people down into your world so that they can actually convert as well. And those leads we're finding are significantly cheaper. So you're not off base, right? That the lead quality from the lead recipient's perspective, yes, the lead quality on Facebook is going to be lower, but I think there's a time and place for each one of those channels.
But with you saying that, isn't that where like Pixel comes in now? So if somebody has been to your website and they didn't purchase, but then they go to Facebook, that's when you retarget them with Pixel because they've already been interested in your service?
I love that.
Works?
Yeah, I love that. That's part of it.
Okay.
The native algorithm right in Facebook nowadays is really powerful. I'll let you in on a secret since we're all about sharing the knowledge and not gatekeeping, is that right now on Facebook, open the floodgates. Back in the day, you used to have to be really specific on who it was that you wanted to target. We're finding now that if you just let Facebook do all the work and their algorithms and AI do it, we're getting a really good result on the cost per click. Now, part of that though, Jen, to your point, is installing that pixel on your website. And so the way that I think about that is I spent this money on Google ads to get the click, to get the eyeballs on my website. And maybe my website didn't convert them. They weren't ready to make that purchasing decision like we talked about earlier. And they go back to living their regular lives. Well, now they're sort of in your world and we're now have that pixel installed. So we've attached that to their browser. Now, when they go back on Facebook, now they're seeing your cleaning company pop up or your
Everywhere.
service-based business pop up. You now surround them and start indoctrinating them.
And if you're spending, and if you're spending so much money to drive traffic to your site, it's such a easy way to then retarget them to keep them in your world. And then when we look at the data, yes, the closing ratio isn't as high as Google, but then when we look and say, okay, well, we spent $800 or $500 on this to acquire, maybe our monthly budget is $500 or $800. And if you get 2 reoccurring cleaning clients and your average lifetime value for that customer is $5,000 or $7,000, it sort of starts to give you a good return on investment. The only downside is the closing ratio isn't as high, but you have to spend a little bit more time on follow-up, but it's still a really good channel to drive drive customers. And that's why we like it.
Is that why I can think of something and then Facebook just starts showing me all the ads for it?
Everybody is tracking. Everybody's tracking.
I would argue, and this is going to be this may be borderline conspiracy theory, but
I'm
I
in
would,
for it.
okay,
She's here
cool.
for all the conspiracy theories. Load them up.
So I would argue that the algorithms are so powerful that they know what you're going to think based on the conditions that you live in and what they know about you. In other words, I'll give you an actual example of something that happened to me, and I want to believe that this is not what happened, but the data is showing me otherwise. I was at a gathering with not even a super close friend of mine, but just an acquaintance, right? And I happened to notice that he had on some new boots, some Vans boots. I am not a Vans person at all, so I'm not in their marketing channels whatsoever. I'm like, but my thought process, I didn't say anything to anybody. My thought process was, man, those boots are pretty cool, and they were brand new and shiny and everything. And I was like, I could actually wear those boots. I kid you not, the next day I saw them on my feed, right? And so I started to think about, I didn't say it out loud because I'm well aware that Facebook is listening and all the ad channels are listening to my phone. I know that that's the truth. I've read the terms of service, right? But I also know that they pick up on location. And they also pick up on the people that are in your friends on Facebook, and they also pick up on their location. And so
Oh my gosh.
Facebook, my theory, and I don't work at Meta, so I can't answer this, but my theory is that Facebook knew that I was in proximity of somebody that had just made a purchasing decision off of a brand that was advertising on their platform. And I might be a good candidate because I might have seen that thing that they just purchased and put me in their marketing funnel, right? And by that theory, Facebook was aware, they weren't tapping into my brain, but they were aware of the conditions that I was living in that would have influenced what I was thinking. And they're just getting there before I am. And
Yeah.
so,
And if they get really good at that, then they can get more ad dollars, right? So they're always
Absolutely.
working on stuff like that.
So yours is a little bit more a complex view. Mine is, I just thought they were hacking my camera.
yeah,
And-
well, I mean, maybe that might also be.
So like I have like my microphone and my camera settings off for Facebook. Like don't even no.
I saw
Yeah.
something a long time ago where there was a photo of Mark Zuckerberg and he had tape over his laptop camera. So it's like,
Yeah.
and he works
If
there,
he's
right?
doing it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
No, it's crazy.
that was very interesting.
I get really excited about that. I mean, think about once they have a skin in the game of being able to, hey, this person is friends with a lot of people that might like this one thing. If we add an extra super discount, it's going to pay dividends because all of his friends are going to buy it too. And once they have that sort of control over the market, it's going to be very interesting.
So what I'm hearing is I just need to go stand around a bunch of random strangers with my website open so that Facebook sees that they're standing next to somebody
Yeah.
who's looking at my website.
Yeah.
That's
Just go around
genius.
and yell at everybody's pockets, just peachy clean, just
Right.
peachy clean. Yeah.
Just subliminal messages all day long. So this is how the digital media, works, that kind of
Yeah.
marketing. Got it.
Yeah.
All right, let's dive into the state of small business marketing and why so many owners feel lost. Why do so many business owners feel burned out by marketers?
I mean, there's a lot of different reasons, I would say. One is they don't know, right? So they don't know what they don't know. And we see a lot of folks that we've taken over or taken on as a client or have done audits for where they're charging $300 a month or $400 a month. How can you be a good steward of money, of the client's advertising dollars, if they're spending $10,000, $20,000 a month, only charging $400 a month? That's sort of like a red flag, right? Or another thing that I see too is, hey, I spent $2,000 to make a website. And like, yes, you want to make a website, you want to brand yourself professionally, and that you have to start somewhere, right? But that's not going to be the end all be all for you to get leads, especially in this day and age with ads are everywhere, right? So I just feel like more education on proper steps when you start a business, because there's different phases when you are, there's different revenue phases. So if you're just starting a business, we can have a game plan. If you're at 50K revenue, we can have a game plan with your advertising dollars. So yeah, that's just a couple things that we've seen.
I would agree with that. I mean, I think there's actually a study done. Constant Contact put out a study that said that 73% of small businesses lack confidence in their marketing. And I think to Phil's point, it really is just a lack of education, and they don't really know what metrics to track. And then so when they have hired agencies in the past, I mean, let's be clear. I hate to bash the industry that I'm in, but all it really takes to start a digital marketing agency is a laptop. And
Yeah, it's all
so
just hocus pocus. Like
yeah,
that's how I look at it. Like you don't really know what's going on in the background. So how do you track it? How do you measure it if you
and
don't
I
have
think
somebody
that
who's good?
Your boomer is
yeah.
showing.
Boomer is showing. But no,
This is
you're
what we
not
do,
wrong.
folks.
Is that it is complicated enough that it goes over most people's heads. And I could get on this podcast right now and talk about click-through rates and CPMs and all these things, and that would make us sound like we're doing a phenomenal job. But at the end of the day, what business owners care about is how much money did it make me, right? And I think if you're interviewing a marketing agency, like there's bad actors in every industry, right?
Yeah.
And so our industry just happens to be a little bit easier for bad actors to get away with because of that hocus pocus factor. If I don't really know if this is working or not. And so that's why we always focus on dollars in versus dollars out. And there's a bunch of different ways to calculate that: return on ad spend, return on investment. But at the end of the day, if your marketing isn't making you money every single month, then you need to fire your agency. Full stop, right? And to Phil's point, if you're hiring an agency that's only charging you, and that's what a lot of people are, I don't want to invest a lot of money. I'm going to hire these guys to do it for $300 a month. And I can just tell you from experience that there's no way that you can run a successful ad campaign on the management side for $300 a month, right? The type of people that we have to employ that are diligent and creative and thoughtful and methodical, that are paying this much attention, costs significantly more than you're going to be able to run for $300 a month. And so there's cost associated with doing it right. And I think that that's sort of the myth that people, they look at it as a commodity of, I'm going to go buy marketing and I'm going to look for the cheapest possible thing. But really what you're doing is you're hiring somebody that's going to manage your money. It's almost like looking for the absolute cheapest accountant. Nobody would do that, right? You want somebody that has a proven track record, and you're probably going to pay a little bit more for that individual.
And
well, because then they get mad because it's not working.
Right. Yeah. 100%.
One crazy thing too is, we're to Justin's point where we want to track everything based on the channel, right? That's why, your account and then some, basically all of our accounts, we want to know exactly where the leads came from. Was it a phone call or was it a form? So we'll be on calls with folks and it still blows their mind. They're like, wait a second, how much is this? Like, where it's just like the wow factor of what, I'm like, listen, this person, their budget is actually around $10,000 a month just in advertising, like in paid position, right? So there is just basically a stigma that's like, oh my goodness, that I'm going to have to spend this much money, even when we have data with other accounts to back it up, right? So it's almost like getting them over, like, let's start somewhere, right?
Right.
With the lowest amount that you can see success, just to kind of, help them through that wow factor.
What are common mistakes that business owners make when they're trying to do it themselves with marketing?
Oh man, not tracking. I will die on this hill. I won't spend $1 unless we can track the performance of that campaign. And this is everything from putting up a banner on the fence of your school, your kid's high school, all the way down to running a full PPC Google Ads campaign. Everything gets a tracking phone number. We have to make sure if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. That's the number one mistake, is that business owners will just go to Google, and Google's happy to take your money. So go to Google and just spin up some campaign. They try to make it really easy. You put your credit card on file. They ask you how much you want to donate to us. And you say $300 a month. And then you're like, I'm running ads on Google. And then maybe one person every 2 months will come in and say, I saw you on Google. And you're not really sure if that was organic, if that was Map Pack, if that was the ad campaign that you were running. So you don't cancel it and you just keep donating to the Google Foundation. So I think that's the number one mistake that people make when they're trying to DIY, is it's already complicated enough. And so it's almost like throwing money into a wishing well. So you have to be able to track
even
it.
with me, with you guys, just mentioned in passing that I was going to do a direct mail campaign, and Philip was like, "Hey, I'm going to send you a tracking QR code and I'm going to send you a tracking number. So when I mail that out, if anybody does call or scans that QR code, we know that it came from that mailer and not just somebody calling us," which I
Yes.
loved. And I
And
didn't even think about asking you guys for that.
yeah, and it sounds like really tech wizardy, but there's a bunch of tools out there. I mean, if you're trying to DIY it, you can go to there's a system called What Converts that I think is somewhere between $30 and $60 per month, that you can get tracking numbers, you can install them on your website, you can get, and you'll just say, okay, this phone number is for that direct mail campaign. And then you can look every so often and see how many phone calls actually came in from this channel and actually get a true cost per lead on every channel. If I know that I spent $3,000 on a direct mail drop and I had 10 phone calls, then all of a sudden I know that, okay, well, that's a $300 cost per lead. But on Google, with my agency, I'm getting a $60 cost per lead. Wouldn't it make more sense for me to just take that $3,000 and give it to these guys to manage it so that I can get more leads for less of a cost? But if you're not tracking, you can't make those decisions.
Right.
Yes. And like we come from automotive, so our brains are wired like where we have to be very diligent on how we're spending advertising dollars, right? Like we want to have a partnership, just like how you ladies want to make sure that you do a good job and keep your reoccurring clients. But yes, everything. Like you can go down the rabbit hole of like, hey, I just started a business. I'm going to do $1,000 every quarter for this sign here, or yard signs here. Well, it could cost you a couple dollars to just put a tracking number on there, right?
Yeah.
Just to see, like, is my $1,000, am I seeing a return? Now, branding is another story, right? There's a little bit more to it but just from an ROI perspective, right? When you're a small business owner, you have to be, the first thing that you should be doing is trying to find people that are looking for your service, right? And then getting more creative as you grow the business.
So what I'm
Very well
hearing from
said.
you also is, just real quick, Nicole, is if you have a digital media company that you have hired that is working for you and they are not providing those types of tracking being able to track those types of sources, then that's a red flag.
Yes.
It's a red flag. I mean, and I would have that conversation with your agency. Like, hey, I just want to make sure that we're spending money in the proper places. Is there anywhere else? I'm not going to sit here and tell you, oh, every agency that's not doing that is doing a bad job. That may not be the
No.
case. But absolutely, it's a red flag if they're not tracking sources and then they're not reporting those sources to you. But as business owners, it's our obligation to make sure that the people that are working for us are doing the right things and that the money is going to the best possible place, for sure. I agree.
And what is the shift from random posting to real strategy?
I think actually having a strategy is the core component there. And in the age of AI, it's pretty easy for small businesses you can go, like, people ask me, I'll be at dinner with somebody and I'll be talking about AI because I'm just fascinated. And they're like, I don't know, I did the thing in the Terminator. And I'm like, dude, take out your phone right now and download ChatGPT. And then they'll download it and they're like, what do I do with this? I was like, ask ChatGPT what you can do with ChatGPT. And it will give you a list of things that you can do. And that's the entry point. And so I can literally go, if I'm a small business owner, and I'll tell you, I do this for our agency, I'll go into ChatGPT and brainstorm and just say, hey, need a week's worth of Facebook post ideas, or wherever your target audience is. I need a week's worth of ideas of content. Don't make your content, which is the other thing that I see people doing all the time for organic content, is just hire me, hire me, hire me. Look how good we are. Hire me, hire me, hire me. We're the best. Hire me, hire me, hire me. The content should be educational and informational and of value to the audience that you are trying to help. This podcast is a great example of the type of content that I love creating, which is just taking the knowledge that we have as agency owners and sharing it with people that are actually going to get benefit from it, right? Because it's going to get consumed more so than a Facebook post where I'm just saying we're the best digital marketing agency on the face of the planet. So do that for your clients. If you're in the cleaning niche, right? Think about, what would homeowners want to know that as an expert that you could just give them for free. And what we found, a lot of times people are holding on to that. They think that if I give the secrets away, then I'm taking away from my own value. And what we find is the exact opposite, is that the more that I share with people about all the complexities and intricacies of digital marketing, the more they say, I understand, this is cool, but I'm not going to do all this. And then they hire us to do it, right? Because when you truly understand what's all involved with even cleaning, right?
Mhm.
The value, when you understand the value of what they're doing, like Jen, I love you guys, right? Like,
Me too.
I understand that it is well worth the money that I spend to have it done because of the value. Now, if I just didn't know what all was done, and I just somebody come and clean my house, it might seem expensive. And so the same thing
Mhm.
applies for every business. So the long-winded answer to summarize, I think with organic social media is to A, have a strategy, B, don't stretch yourself too thin. So don't say, okay, I'm going to get on LinkedIn and TikTok and Insta and Facebook, and just pick one. Pick
Oh my
one.
gosh, because you could drown yourself in all of that. It's like
Yeah.
a
And
full-time
it's
job to
better.
do all that.
And what I think about is if you have a pitcher of water, which is your time and energy, your resources that you have internally, and you've got 6 glasses in front of you, you're not going to get each glass up to the full tipping point to where it's actually going to make a positive difference in your business. But if you've only got one, you can fill that thing all the way up to the top, right? And so if I've only got so much attention and focus as a business owner or operator or somebody that is working for a business, and I just put all of my effort into posting 2 or 3 times a day on Facebook alone, I'm going to get more returns than if I would have posted once on Facebook, once on TikTok, and once on Insta. So
Yeah.
pick one and go after it and make valuable content.
One thing
So
Justin, said, oh, this was probably like maybe 3 weeks ago or a month. We were talking to a new business owner, right? He's like, you have your leverage, right? Social media is free leverage, right? You don't have a ton of money to spend on advertising. You can help yourself build a brand, right? Where you're not just saying, hey, please sign up with me, please sign up with me, please sign up with me. You can do funny things. You can do informational, like you're trying to build a brand, not just sell, 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 right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
And that is free leverage just starting as a business owner, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Because I think that's and I'll pass with this, but I think my definition of strategy that I've heard over the years is basically a deployment of a fixed amount of resources against an immeasurable amount of opportunities. So we've got, as businesses, we've got a million different things that we could do, but we've only got so much time and money, which is our 2 resources that we have. And so strategy really comes down to, where do I take this limited amount of time and money and deploy it to get the most outsized returns? And I think if that's the case, then it becomes very clear that if I don't have a lot of money, right, because I'm just starting out, I've got more time than I have money. And that's when I start to look at things like, okay, well, I need to post organically on social media. At some point, we all know the continuum of business is we have less time and more money. And so that's when things like ads really
Mhm.
become a phenomenal play, because I can get just as much reach by turning up the dial on advertising and buy back some of my time that I was spending making organic social content. So, yeah, I love that concept. It's been instrumental. Shout out Alex Hermosi on that one.
Well, and Dan
And
Martell's book is Buy Back Your Time.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
phenomenal. It
it's got
talks
that
about
right.
that too. I absolutely love it. Go ahead,
This
Nicole.
guy right here. Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
so how did y'all end up focusing on home service marketing?
I think it just friends that we knew, or we would get referrals. We really liked the home service niche because we were more familiar with it as we were getting clients. Like more and more clients would hear about us. Um, I will say that I do like I like the service-based business with the reoccurring model, like the reoccurring cleanings, um, because that's helpful for us to be even more creative with advertising dollars, right? Because we're not just looking at the first time they pay, we're looking at, well, what are they worth? Or, what's their lifetime value, right?
Right.
So,
But so many businesses that think that they are just like a one and done type business can figure out a way to generate that reoccurring revenue. That tree service out there, yeah, they're going to come do one big sweep of the trees and cut everything back off the roof. But why not set up a quarterly program where you come out and you just trim up everything so it doesn't get overwhelming and cost you $3,000 to trim everything back a year? I don't think
yes.
enough businesses realize that like, oh, roofing might be the caveat there because that is a one big purchase kind of thing. But so many other ones can come up with some sort of service plan to continue to serve their clients throughout the year on a recurring basis and generate that recurring revenue model without even realizing it.
Yeah, I
100%.
think so. And, you mentioned the tree service. A lot of them do plant healthcare, especially the very large ones, right? They're doing that 'cause now that's another reoccurring, it's another revenue bucket. But, you know, how we got into the service industry, it was just super fun for us to generate leads from people that we had no idea who they were. It was really exciting. And then it was, cool. We can see, oh, this is paid search and it's like funneling into a CRM. We can listen to the call. Not that we're trying to be creepy, right? But it helps us. We do some spot check QAs on some of our advertisements to make sure that we're doing a good job. But it was just so exciting to have that happen, right? And
There
it
have
was
been times that Philip has texted me and gone, "There's a lead sitting in your pipeline that's been there for 6 hours and nobody's reached out to them yet. Why haven't you called them?" I'm like, "Yeah, get out of my CRM. What are you doing? But thank you for
sorry
checking up
about
on us."
that.
I
Or
do that to you too. You can't catch a break.
No, I can't. I get it from all sides.
that's so funny. Yeah.
Mhm.
But yeah, we love it. And it's just, that was so cool for the first client that we had, just in being able to see the whole process. And, oh, we closed the job. It was $5,000 or $3,500. I was like, man, this is really cool. I would love to continue to do this more than once. Yeah.
So let's just, were you going to go ahead?
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah.
I was, okay.
I'm a talker, so we'll be on this thing for 3 hours if
This
you
may
give me
have
an
to be a
open mic.
part 1 and a part 2.
Yeah.
It may get too long, but I really think it's
Yeah.
super valuable information too. Like, I really do think that people need to hear this because it's such a tricky topic that most people don't understand. Anyway, go ahead, Nicole.
Yeah, I mean, we could say that marketing is the Wild Wild West right now. Every business owner has a horror story. Why do you think it's such a mess out there right now?
I really do think it just comes back down to people aren't tracking the right things. I think it comes down to agencies aren't reporting on the right things, and they're hiding behind vanity metrics. If I can give some razzle dazzle if we're not performing on the different types of metrics, but if the business owner straight up asks, how much money did you make me, which is what they should be mostly concerned about, then it's my responsibility as an agency to provide that. And if you're doing it yourself, right, take the agency out of the equation, I think that it's a lack of understanding of what should I even track, right? Like we're getting accustomed to the concept of return on investment. I've had business owners ask me, what does ROI stand for? And then it sort of raised a red flag on my head, like, oh, these aren't well-known concepts. And so I think there are some key measurements, and if you'll allow me, I'll give you a few of those that I think people really need to start
Absolutely.
understanding and tracking. So return on investment, return on ad spend. They're used almost interchangeably, but they are two completely different things. Return on investment is basically including your profit margin, and return on ad spend is total revenue number. If both scenarios, if I put $4 into the vending machine and I get $8 back out of the vending machine, then I have 100%. I doubled my money, right? And that is how I should be thinking about my marketing and basically anywhere that I'm investing time and resources into my business, including hiring, right? Because we're either supply constrained or demand constrained. And
Yes.
if we don't have enough customers coming in, then that means we need to dial up our marketing to acquire new customers. But if we've got more work than we can handle, but I know that each one of my people that work under me are going to make me X amount of dollars per year, then I can work out a math formula to say, if I pay you $1 and you make me $4, then that's a 4x return on my money, and I'm happy with that.
Right.
And so I think that those concepts are one of the core things that's missing with marketing, is people are just like, well, I spent $500 on Google and I got a few jobs from it. That doesn't tell me anything. We need to know how much revenue total and what your margins are to see if it's a good use of your resources. And the measurement that we use, that I love to use, is LTV to CAC, which LTV stands for lifetime value. So what is the total number of profit that you can expect over the lifetime of the customer, not total revenue, and of them being a customer of yours. CAC stands for customer acquisition cost. What did it cost you to acquire that customer? I'm going to try to make this example as simple as possible, but let's say that our lifetime value customer stays 2 years at $250 per month, right? So that's a lifetime value of $6,000. I use ChatGPT to help me with this formula, so I
I was
know
gonna say
that
that's a
it's
lot of math really quickly. I'm super
So
impressed.
the numbers are accurate, but it ain't because of my brain. So let's say the $6,000 is the lifetime value, right? That's what we know that we keep people on 2 years on average. We're going to have churn that just happens. So if I spend $1,500 to acquire a new customer, which to most business owners that aren't running numbers like this, that sounds completely unbelievable to spend $1,500 to get one customer. But that's a 4-to-1 ratio. That means that for every $1,500 I spend, I'm getting $6,000 out. That's actually a very healthy number. If it's less than that, then we have to look at what the sales process looks like. What does your customer retention process look like? How can we boost the LTV? How can we lower the customer acquisition cost? But this is where people get it really wrong, is they might actually do this equation on their business, and they might say, man, I'm at a 20-to-1 LTV to CAC. I'm doing a great job. Well, no, that just means that you're under investing on marketing. Because if your LTV to CAC is that high, you've got some over efficiencies that you can fix to actually get you more customers coming in the door. And so the only issue that you would have to just say, okay, this is a great concept, I'm going to run with it today, is cash flow, because it's going to take you a few months to get back the investment. And so that's really what the game becomes, is making sure that we're tracking what does it cost us to acquire a customer versus what the value of that customer is within the time frame of cash flow that I can use to survive on that advertising channel.
Yes.
So,
And
I love that you brought that up, because the flip side of that people don't think about either is they spend money on advertising and they put so much money in and they only convert the person as a one-time client. Say your customer acquisition cost is $1,500, and yes, you brought me a brand new shiny client, but that client only spent $500 for me. I'm already in the hole for that client for $1,000.
yep.
Focusing on that recurring revenue, understanding your numbers so that you can make those decisions and um, look at what your ad spend is and see if it's worth it. If your customer acquisition cost is $1,500 and your average person is only spending $500 with you, then something is way off there.
Yes.
So you've got to know both sides of it.
and it all, even for that's why like the first major problem would be tracking and knowing where your customers are coming from. We can't get away with saying, oh, how did you hear about us? Google local service ads, paid search, organic.
You might as well have said the internet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So if you start there and know exactly where they're coming from, you can get fancier and fancier as you grow the business to start understanding things like that, right?
Well, and in the coaching program that Nicole and I are part of, one of the questions that we have been trained to ask on all of our sales calls is, how did you hear about us? But like you just said, they probably did that final Google search to get our phone number, but they could have heard about us on Facebook. They could have seen us on Instagram. They could have met us at a vendor event, and our name was just floating around in there. And then they land on Google. So you don't really know what that is. But with the tracking that you guys are doing, I can see exactly what ad they came from. Not just that they came from a Google ad, but I can see what ad they came from or what Facebook ad they came from. So since we're talking about that, and you mentioned that the vanity metrics, let's talk about what actually works right now and what doesn't. So when we're talking about social media, what's worth doing and what is just that vanity metric trap?
Yeah. So I think to talk about that, we need to cover what you really just touched on. And I think what we're asking here too is basically the different attribution models that exist. And attribution just means who gets credit for the lead, right? Because as you can imagine, most customers don't just have one interaction with your business online and convert. So there's basically two schools of thought. Is you have last touch attribution and first touch attribution. And so, for example, let's say that we are running a Facebook ad, we're running a Google ad, you're posting organically, and you've invested into search engine optimization, right? So if somebody goes to Google and they're like, man, I really hate cleaning my house. What house cleaning companies exist near me? Boom, the organic result pops up. Somebody clicks on it. They check out your website. They say, man, this is nice, but I can't really afford this right now. Next week, they get an ad on Facebook, right? Because it's a retargeting ad. They've been to your website and they say, oh, this is good. Oh, I like what they're saying. I still don't really want to buy it. And then a week goes by. They have a family coming over for Thanksgiving or whatever. And they say, you know what? I need somebody to clean. They go to Google. They type in house cleaning company near me and they click on your ad. If you looked at last touch attribution, you would say that Google ads are what converted that customer. But if you look at first touch attribution, you would say that organic SEO is what what actually got that customer. So I don't want to say that there's any wrong or right way, but just be cautious that if you're only looking at last touch attribution, you're going to be looking at what I consider to be the right hooks, right? You could think of like organic and brand building activities as jabs, where you're just like, hey, here's some value. Hey, here's some value. Hey, here's some value. And the right hook is give me your money, right? Sign up, take advantage of our offer. Here's the special. Here's the incentive. Here's our phone number. You're asking them for business. And so, the answer to your question being that I think all of them are important, but if we prefer to track first touch attribution because that's how they got into your world. And so every activity from there on becomes about conversion more so than it does about actually getting their attention. And so if you're what works right now and what doesn't work right now, I fully believe that anything can work. If you only did Facebook ads, it can work. If you only did Google ads, it can work. For any service-based business, if I had if I had to say pick one channel and go, local service ads are the things that I would do right now beyond a shadow of a doubt. If I only had so much money, I would just tell Google to take as much of my money on local service ads as I can. And the reason is that they just did a study, 42% of the first click goes to LSA.
Wow.
Period, full stop. So you'll see things on Facebook from other agencies, SEO is dead, SEO is dead. And it's not dead, but it's on life support.
That's interesting because that was actually going to be my next question. Google ads, SEO, organic content, email marketing, what's hot and what's dead?
Yeah. So 42% of the first click goes to LSA, 22% then goes to Google ads, standard pay-per-click. Actually, I'm lying. 22% is the organic SEO and everything else is Google ads. So if you hired an SEO agency because you've heard the buzzword and you said, I need to get my SEO on point, you're fighting over 22% of the total clicks. And so it's still an important factor, especially as we it's not the only one, and it's not the one that's going to give you the best returns on your money.
So I have a question there. From what we have tracked, and it's nowhere near in depth as what y'all are talking. I'm trying to keep up. But from what we've tracked, local service ads produces great one-time cleanings. But when it's recurring, I think it's that retargeting. I think it's recurring is Google AdWords has been a better source for us for recurring customers. But a one-time, local service ads will do it because those are the people in a rush and they don't have time to do their homework.
But have you actually tracked that? Because you keep saying,
Yes.
I think. So, okay, just making sure.
Yes.
I think that I think every area is going to be slightly different. The sales process, every client might have a different sales process. But if you think about LSA, the reason why we always like harp on that channel is because it's at the very top. And yes, you're right. They could be looking for one-time cleans or house cleaning, but anything cleaning related, LSA will show up at the top, right? So you want to make sure that you're there. And then that also leaves another topic of, let's say you have 500 one-time cleans in your world. You can have monthly newsletters going out. You got now, like they have a point, like they have a business that they can rely on because you did such a good job. Maybe eventually they just get tired of it and then move into the reoccurring model.
To that point, I have a theory, not vetted whatsoever, but one thing to consider that may be impacting or showing the results that you're speaking about, Nicole, is that with local service ads, you don't have control over the keywords, right? You're basically telling Google, hey, this is the type of business that I do. These are the services that I provide. And Google has ownership of the keyword selection that's actually going to show your advertising. Whereas if you're running Google AdWords, Google PPC, pay-per-click, you are in complete control of what shows up. And so I can tell you that as an agency, I know that our clients really prefer to have recurring cleanings and the activities that would have a much higher LTV. And so if we went into our keyword research, we're going to be favoring those type of keywords as opposed to family coming over for Thanksgiving one-time clean, right? Or budget cleaning or whatever they're typing into Google that we may show up on LSA and may not. So I think outside of that just being theory, I think it is important to call out that when you're running a Google Ads campaign, a Google pay-per-click search campaign, you as the business owner do have far better control over when your ad shows up versus local service ads. But as far as a visibility and cost per lead, local service ads is where
Yeah.
it's at right
And I
now.
think that there is a category in local service ad maintenance cleaning, but there's no control to say cheap maintenance cleaning near
Right.
me versus premier.
Yeah.
So yes, that is a good point.
Maintenance cleaning for
Yeah.
millionaires.
We have,
Super
I think
premier luxury maintenance cleaning near me.
I think we have one time, and there's like 5 options. You could have one for LSA, and we have move out and one time turned off. And we found that drastically helped the value of what we were getting ROI wise. So it's a little tidbit
It's a
that I
great
did that
insight.
worked.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's really good. And I think so not only every niche, but every client might have a different setup, right? So we have a lot of folks that use message, they have message turned on and that's like maybe more so the tree service niche that we work with.
Mhm.
However, the cleaning niche, not so much from what we've seen, right? Where they have the
Yeah.
messages turned
No.
off.
That's off.
Right?
Yeah. And I'll put out a disclaimer too for anybody that's listening to this and is like, okay, well, we have I want more control over my ads. We'll also recognize that there's so much more time investment in running a pay-per-click search campaign that it's going to offset the gains that you would probably receive by not just using LSA. So if you only got a limited budget, always, always, always go LSA first. And then as your budget expands, time expands, get into PPC for more control.
Yes.
How long do you think that it typically takes for people to start seeing results?
On which channel? I guess that's the question. Yeah.
So you just said that LSA is a quick one. So like if they do decide to go Google Ads or SEO, what is kind of that?
Yeah, LSA is almost immediate. Once you pass the background check, it takes a couple weeks to go through the process of getting the ad account set up. But once you have done that, Google's going to feel you out. And there's some ranking signals that are very important to call out if you set up a local service ads account, which is your phone answer rate and your message reply rate, as well as your Google reviews. And so those things, if you're running LSA, that is your bread and butter. If the phone rings, you have to answer it because what will happen is Google gets paid when they generate a lead, and they only generate a lead if you answer the phone.
Right.
And so if they have 10 cleaning companies or 10 tree services or 10 landscapers that are on LSA, they're going to prioritize the one that has the highest likelihood of them being able to make the $50, $60, $70 that they're going to charge you for the lead. And so if you are one of those people that only has an 80% answer rate, you're going to really struggle with LSA. So
yeah.
And then also the budget too. We've seen some where, hey, I want to spend $100 a week on Google Ads. And I mean,
those are the people that are crying that it didn't work for them.
Yes,
exactly. 100%. 100%.
And it's like, okay, well, there's 50 competitors that will spend $10,000 a week. So we have to probably spend a little bit more. And like, obviously you have to have staff to handle the leads. You have to have revenue, right? But we have to be realistic on, budget. And that's what we help clients with as well. Right.
Right. So if a newer home service business came to you tomorrow and said, listen, I'm ready to get into this advertising world. Here is $1,000. Where should I put it? What would you tell them?
I would say first, well, there's a couple factors that I would like to know, but do you have a Google business profile? If they do, let's start setting up local service ads, right? And then branch the budget off from there as they get more revenue, then set up a PPC account, right? Because we're now still targeting people that are looking for your services. And then from there, go into Meta and some of these other advertising channels. That's where I would start. If you have $1,000 to spend, let's first target people that are looking for your services, right? That would make the most sense.
So this is all really, really good info. I feel like Jen hit it on the head earlier and said we might need to make this a part 2. We're not even halfway in, but we're an hour in.
Oh, we are. That's crazy.
Yeah. So I love it. This is great. How is everybody on the same page that we should book a part 2?
Yeah, I'd love to.
All right.
I think that would be great.
If y'all are good, we can roll a little bit more. I know we have a lot to cover and there's a lot of really good info here. So I'm not opposed to rolling a little bit more if everybody has time.
Let's do it.
Yeah,
I'm good.
All right, great. So now we're going to dive into how to track ROI so you don't get scammed. And if you're new here, tune back into the beginning so you can remember what ROI is, but that's return on investment. You want to make sure you know where your money is going. So with that said, could y'all tell us what tools and metrics matter?
Yeah. So we look at, so let's pretend that you're one of our clients, right? Or if you have an agency or you're doing this yourself, I'm going to want to know how much money you spent on a monthly basis for each one of these advertising channels. So if you said to me, yeah, I ran Facebook ads, and I spent $500 on Facebook ads and I didn't really feel like it worked. I mean, I got 1 or 2 calls, but it didn't really work that well. Well, my question to you would be, you got 1 or 2 calls. Did you close them? Yeah, I closed one of them. Well, how much revenue did you make? Well, I did a tree removal. We'll keep with the tree game. And I got $1,500. Okay. So you saw a 300% return on your investment, but you're telling me that Facebook ads don't work. And I think the concept is that people don't understand what it actually costs to acquire a customer. And so that's one of the first things that I would figure out and want to track is what is my actual cost to acquire a customer? And then B, what is that return on investment? So understanding that, okay, well, I did get this $1,500 job or I did get this $3,000 job. And so I saw this 300% return on investment. It changes the narrative from I only got a couple of calls for my $500 to I only 3x'd my money on $500, right? Like if you ask anybody that went into a casino and said, how'd you do? And they said, I don't know, dude, I only got 300% more than I came in with. Like that sounds crazy. But in business, we say that all the time. I only got XYZ, right? And so it comes down to the fact that they're not tracking it. And so being very
I like that about the reporting that you guys provide. Like they actually send me a spreadsheet that says, like it goes into, there's like 3 sheets on the spreadsheet, and it's not just like, hey, here was what you earned one-time cleanings. Going in, marrying it with your CRM, here's what you got recurring cleanings. So based on what your ad spend and then what you got recurring, like it's a detailed report. It's not like you just go, hey, you spent $500 on Facebook and you got 3 new clients. You spent $1,000 on Google Ads, you got 2 new clients. Like you guys actually break it down to show what the initial revenue was and then what that potential revenue is based on your LTV.
Yeah, we're even looking at the start date of the reoccurring, right? Because we could send you a report that says, hey, you had a 10,000% ROI. You just have had all these customers for 10 years. Very similar to how we tag leads in the CRM as direct. More than likely, they had just searched for your, they typed in the website URL. So they already know who you are, right? So we like to be as fair as possible as well, because that gives us the data that we need to make decisions. But yes.
And I think that goes sort of back to the original question, which was, what tools and platforms and how do you track these things? Certainly you can do it manually if you're sort of a wizard with Google spreadsheets or Excel or anything like that. But also you can use tools like Go High Level as a CRM. Every industry has their own specific, industry-specific CRMs like Made Central, Jobber, House Call Pro, depending on what you're using. But really, that is where your customer information should live. Many of our clients are just doing things on paper, contracts with their customers. That's challenging because you don't have it in a system that you can run reports against. And so what I would say is, at the bare minimum, take that information and put it into a spreadsheet. So that way you can always run formulas, run reports, do what you need to do, or have somebody else do it for you.
And we can provide a list of some good example tools, but yes, Go High Level, What Converts, Justin mentioned. We actually used to use What Converts a while ago, right? So I think that would be a good option if you're doing everything yourself. Doesn't really make sense for an agency, but for a business owner, it's really good. There's some agencies that actually use What Converts. But yeah, we can provide like a list of some tools to help with tracking, but bare bone, if you don't want to be nerdy at all, an Excel sheet or a Google sheet, start recording where they came from. That's step 1, right? You want to know where you're spending your money so you can spend more to make more money.
Now, is tracking by platform outdated?
Absolutely not. No, I would track by platform and then additionally by ad campaign, because if you are running more than one campaign, you're going to want to know which one is actually generating dollars and cents, as opposed to the metrics that you're just going to see within the platforms themselves, such as conversions, right? All conversions are not created equal, I think we talked about earlier. And so we want to optimize against the conversions that are actually generating dollars and cents, revenue and profit for the business.
Yes.
Yeah,
I would argue that tracking by platform is mandatory and then some.
So I realized on this call actually that we know all of our lead sources for everything, right? Very broad, like Google, what have you, not as specific as y'all have mentioned. But I'd never do anything with that information. I just know, all right, we got most of our leads from Google this month, but I never do anything with it, right? So I find this really insightful. I'm really glad that y'all came on today. What are some tips that y'all have for linking calls, forms, and revenue for marketing?
Forms are a different animal. So that's where tools like Go High Level really come into play. What Converts also has some form tracking capabilities as well, but either one of those I think are imperative, because at the end of the day, let's say you're running an ad on Google, but you're also running an ad on Facebook, and both of them are driving traffic to your website. Well, now your website needs to be smart enough to know the visitor session of where that source came from. And so that's where tools like High Level, What Converts, and a multitude of others out
Spot
there,
even.
HubSpot,
Right.
will be able to tell you which channel that visitor came from so that you can attribute it to the proper place. I think website forms are probably everybody's least favorite lead source, because then you also have the answer rate of, do they pick up the phone when I call, and the conversion rates are lower, but they are super valuable. And yeah, so I would say that's where those tools really come into play. And of course, they also do call tracking and everything like that to get you the answers that you need.
And I would just like to say that if all of that sounds super overwhelming and you just shut down, that's the reason that there are places like Digital Anchor Media, because all of that was a lot of information, and thinking that you can do it on your own sometimes is just absurd. Yes, we all have to start somewhere. That was a little bit more high level, and I absolutely think that it's something that is better suited for some sort of marketing agency that can actually help you track that, unless you're just a super techie nerd and can do all that.
Yeah,
That goes to, go ahead,
I
Nicole.
was just going to say that I can't even get an email back, apparently. Yeah. I'm going, the shade is real. Yeah, I'm actually very
Yeah.
salty. This whole call, I'm like, wow, this is mind blowing. Yeah, I'm actually, I already thought, how am I going to word this email telling this dude he's fired? Because like,
Oh man.
it's been I come from I have the same guy that Jen had. So I'm sure she
I
told
gotcha.
y'all before she came to y'all.
They
So
have seen it on more than one client. It's not just me.
Yes.
really?
Yeah.
So
We're
y'all are
very,
the rebound company.
very light.
Yeah, we're the toxic rebound.
Except
just kidding.
untoxic. They're
Untoxic.
the untoxic.
Yeah,
rebound.
we're what you
super nice.
yeah.
So
No,
speaking of that agency, how would we avoid being blinded by clicks and impressions? Because every time I talk to him, he's like, "Oh, you have this many conversions." I'm like, "No, we don't. Our leads dropped. What are you talking about?"
I can take this one. If we're looking at a paid search account, right? We see, you can log into ads.google.com. You can see my impressions, my clicks, and really that's important for the person managing the account, right? That's the, if you're doing it yourself, your marketing director or something like that, like that's how we manage the account. The information that you care about is conversion, ROI, how much revenue did I make, right? Sending you something that says, hey, you have a good click-through rate of 20% and your conversions, you have 100 conversions and all the conversions are set up as a page visit. That doesn't really do anything other than vanity metrics, just to, okay, yes, keep giving us money. Thank you. That's not, that's why we use the CRM to track everything, right? That's
Well,
really what you need to stay away from.
and for us in Google, they have it set up now that it's not even considered a conversion unless they either fill out a form or they spend at least 30 seconds on the phone with us. If it's anything less than 30 seconds, it's not a valid lead. It's probably somebody calling, asking about a job, or they're not in our area or whatever. So it's not even set up to be considered a conversion until we've spent 30 seconds on the phone with them, or they've actually filled out a form for us.
And I'll say that we've
and
taken a long time to set this up to make sure it's firing correctly for all of our clients, right? and funneling into the CRM when we build them out for the clients. Now it's very intentional. Did you call us? Is it a form fill? So when you look in Google Ads yourself, it's not really, that's for our team to look at, or your marketing director if you're doing it yourself. But now we're feeding just proper data into the machine so we can get those type of conversions ongoing into the account.
I think that's important to really spell out, which is we're talking about conversions. People are listening like, okay, well, the conversion just means like we got a lead, right? What's more important about conversions is we are feeding that data back to Google. So Google is this AI machine that's running these ads, and they're bringing people to your website. And based on what that person does, Google's job is to find more people to do just that. And so if on your website you have a conversion action that is a scroll, which is not uncommon, we see people count scrolls or map views as conversions, which, like I said, not uncommon, then you're teaching Google that, hey, I want more people that are going to scroll. I want more people that are going to view the map.
Oh,
We break it down so much simpler, and we say we want people that are calling or submitting forms. And what generally happens is we lower our cost per click, we get a lower cost per lead, and we get more overall conversions because the AI is phenomenal. The algorithms are smart, and they just, when you feed them good data back, they get better and better about matching you up with the right person.
And you can even
oh my gosh, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, it's super important. And if you think e-commerce, right? Like you can even take, now this is completely different niche, but if you're doing the same thing, like when I get a purchase, you can also put the purchase amount, right? That conversion value was X because they bought something. So now you're feeding the machine that says, these are the people that I'm looking for. If the accounts are set up and you're paying a very small fee for ads, right? And we're telling Google, give me page clicks, then that's not the type of conversions that you want in your account, right? It doesn't really do anybody any good, right? And that's why we completely avoid that.
I think the missing link here between vanity metrics and, actual, what I would consider to be marketing metrics there's a person missing. There's a role missing. When your agency is telling you this is our click-through rate, this is our CPMs, this is all the vanity metrics, that's what, like, our paid person that reports to Phil and I, that's what they tell us, right? They tell us, hey, listen, this is my click-through rate on these campaigns. This is the amount of conversions that I have on these campaigns. And then it's our responsibility to translate that to dollars and cents on the business side. And so if you don't have that piece of the chain, then you've got a business owner or a business manager that is trying to interpret PPC jargon to determine if we're doing good or not, but you really have to be able to tie it to the actual customer so that you can get the revenue numbers. And so that's where the CRM and the link between those two comes into play.
I think that's a really good cap on that. That makes sense.
So what you're saying is if someone can't show me how many actual sales came from my marketing, that's a red flag.
Yes.
All right.
Well, speaking of red flags, let's talk about how to vet an agency. Or did you have something else to say?
I was going to say we're past an hour. We're an hour and 10 minutes in. So I think that's the halfway point. So I think that's a good place to, if you wanted to. I
leave it
I
on
gotta
to
hop
part
off.
2. No,
Yeah,
you're fine.
On to
Yeah,
part 2.
We can
We'll
do
be
that
back
too.
next week
So,
or whatever.
yeah, we will reach out to you. Seriously, we'll reach out to you because I don't know. Oh, we'll be out of town next week, but probably the following week. We have a conference to go to next week.
Oh, nice. That'll be fun.
I'll be emailing y'all before then. Don't worry.
That's cool.
Okay.
Yeah, send it our
But
way.
yes,
No.
listen, if you guys made it this far and you have been listening all of this way, I hope that you don't feel overwhelmed. I hope that you don't feel more confused by everything. I hope that we are at least shedding some light on the people that you have hired and how to vet them a little bit better and what to look out for. And one of the things that I love about Philip and Justin is even if you don't decide to use their company, they are more than happy to answer questions and to do a quick audit and to show you kind of, what's going on in there and what you should be looking for. When I first switched to them, the very first thing they said to me was, whoever's doing your SEO is doing phenomenal. We can't give them any knock. We can't knock them on anything they're doing for SEO. Now, this other stuff, there's a lot of red flags, but the SEO they had killed it on. So I like that they didn't sugarcoat it. And I like that they weren't just trying to close a sale. They're like, you can stay with that person for SEO if you want to switch for other stuff, or whatever. So there is light at the end of the tunnel. And if you are DIYing it, you can do it, but be very careful with that. Nicole, do you have anything else you want to close out with today?
Just stop guessing, start tracking, and stop hiring agencies that sound good but can't show you proof.
Correct. And tune in 2 weeks from now when we're going to do the follow-up to this one.
All right.
All
Thanks
right,
for
thank you
joining
guys
us.
so
This has been
much.
great.
Thank you.
No, thank you. The pleasure was ours.
Thank you, everyone.
Appreciate you.
Yes. That was a good one.
Music licensing reimagined.